Okay. Hi, everyone. Professor Sweeter here. Hope you're all doing well this week. And I wanted to create a little video for you to talk about the midterm project. Specifically in this video, we're going to discuss step 2, which is the creation of your midterm outline. So at this point, you have contacted me regarding your topics and your thesis statements, and this was submitted in Blackboard last week via step 1. I have gone through and I have read through all of the ones that I've received up until now, and I've provided feedback. And as you're looking at the feedback, you're going to see one of 2 different reports. You might see, and I don't want you to throw things, but you might see a grade of 7, okay? Now, when you see a 7 in Blackboard or in MindTap for that matter, what that is me trying to communicate to you that you need to fix something and that you need to redo the assignment. 7 is kind of a scary number, and it's one that jumps out pretty easily at people. So it's just a number that I've been using for a couple of years now to indicate that we need to talk about it. All right, so when you see that 7, or I should say, if you see that 7 in Blackboard, please make sure that you check the comments associated with that particular assignment. Very likely what you're going to see in that case is that I've assigned a 7 to it, and then I've left you some comments about your thesis statement perhaps, or your topic, or some ideas that you have, and I've encouraged you to resubmit the assignment. Typical comments might include like too broad of a thesis statement, or maybe I can't find your thesis statement, or maybe need to pare down on the topic because it's just too much to fit into 6 to 8 minutes and really do it justice. The good news is if you do see that 7 there, I do want you to resubmit. I am willing to meet with you at it. And as soon as you do resubmit and have a workable thesis statement, I will change that grade back to the 100 that it should be. Those of you who didn't get a 7, if you didn't get that 7, you saw a 100. Woo, that's good. What that means is your thesis statement is in great shape. And again, if you look at the comments, you'll see that I've said, this looks good, and go ahead and start working on the outline. Okay. In both situations, though, I do want to remind you, I'm here to help. I'm here for you as a resource. And if you decide that you need to chat with me, if you want to get a better idea of what I'm looking for, then please, by all means, reach out to me, send me a text message, and you and I can make time and talk and brainstorm thesis statements and ideas together. That's what I'm here for. So what I'd like to do is take some time now and talk to you about step 2. Step 2 is the second part of the project. And in this part, what you'll be doing is creating your outline for your speech. Now, a couple things I want to go over really, really quickly. When you're doing a speech, when you're doing a formal speech like this assignment, you're not writing an essay, okay? The writing process for a speech and an essay are very similar, but you've got to remember that you've got 2 very, very different products at the end. So you're not actually writing an essay when you're putting together your speech. Consider for a minute what we see on TV. Whenever someone gives a speech, especially politicians, you often see those clear plastic teleprompters next to them that they're reading off of, or they've got prepared remarks and they're reading off of them. And the reality is that's not a real speech. Sorry, guys, it's not a real speech. A real speech is actually created from notes that are highly detailed, like an outline. For example, I'm talking to you right now, just using a basic list of notes. I know that I have to hit these 6 points. And once I do, I'll have effectively gotten through this video for you. All right. Please remember that people on TV, especially politicians, when they're speaking, when they're presenting, there's a lot of liability at stake. And so a lot of times they come with a pre-written message or pre-written speech because that liability is so important. And whether it's their political party or the organization they're working for, doesn't matter which, they need to ensure that whoever's delivering that message is being faithful to either that brand or to the intent of that message. But a real speech, not actually written out. You might have read speeches in history class, in the past, but those were written after the fact, or recorded, transcribed from a recording that was made. So in this case, real speech, we are not writing any essays. We are using bullet point notes. All right, what I'd like to do is take a second and share with you my screen. I'm going to show you what we're looking at this week in the project folder. And at this point, you're looking under course projects. If you need to find where I am right now, you can go to course projects and then midterm projects. I'll click in there and we'll scroll down. So already you've gotten through this first section here. This goes over the project introduction. And of course, you can download the project assignment and the project rubric right there. We're going to scroll down a little bit further. Step 1 is what you did last week, the thesis statement, goal, and topic paragraph. So now we're moving on to step 2, the outline. Now, please remember the due dates for each of these assignments are listed in Blackboard. So you're going to want to refer to Blackboard to know for certain when your outline is due. So here's the assignment. Create a highly detailed outline of the information you will address in your presentation. Your outline will follow a bulleted format and should include the following: a recap of your topic, your goal, and your thesis statements, a hook which interests your audience, main points and supporting details. I'll tell you, this is going to be the bulk of your speech right here. You're going to have a lot of information when it comes to the main points and the supporting details, because those are helping to explain that goal and that thesis. And then of course, a recognizable conclusion. So if you think about it, the format that I just explained to you is almost identical to what you would do for, say, a persuasive essay. The only difference is this time you're not writing it out. You're just doing that really, really detailed outline. So I've got for you here there we go. I've got for you here 2 different documents that I want to share with you so that you can see what I'm looking for. And I think you'll find this is especially helpful if you haven't created an outline in a long time. We all learn this as kids, but it doesn't mean that, you're still familiar with it. So first of all, I want to show you this document. This is the sample informative persuasive speech outlines right there. And I will warn you, this is a 12-page document. All right. That does not mean I'm looking for 12 pages for your outline. Your outline should probably be between 3 to 5 pages in length. This one I'm sharing with you because it's a great example. It's highly detailed, and it's something that really covers everything that you need to include with your speech. All right, so here is the example for an informative speech outline. And as you scroll through, you can see the topic is the Titanic. Here's the thesis right there. From the disasters of the movie, the sinking of the Titanic remains one of the most famous tragedies in history. And then right here where it says 1, as soon as you jump into these numbers, this is the actual speech itself. Everything above that was just kind of informational, just to let me know as I read through your outlines what I'm looking at. And scrolling through, I've got the introduction, and in the introduction I have the intention getter or the hook. After that is a reason to listen. Why should we listen to what you have to say? There's also a credibility statement, and really for a lot of you guys, reason to listen and credibility statement is going to be the same thing. So don't feel that you have to separate those out completely. Your thesis statement, and scrolling down a little bit more, preview of the main points. All right, and that's the first part. That's the beginning of your outline. From there, we go into part 2, and part 2 is essentially the first main points regarding this particular speech. So in this section, I know that the person is going to be talking about the Titanic being the largest, safest, and most luxurious ship ever. And my supporting details. Scroll down a little bit more, and to part B, the Titanic hit disaster head on when it ran into an iceberg 4 days after its departure. I just want to point out to you a couple things. First of all, you see, as I'm scrolling through here, a true outline format. Here's the main idea for that first section, part A. Here's another main point, and here's some supporting details. Here's another main point. And below that, A, B, and C, those are your supporting details. So that's the format that you're going to follow when you're doing an outline. The next thing that I want to point out to you is right here, before this speech moves on to the second main point, you have a transition. And that's something that you are definitely going to want to include in your speeches as well. It's a nice way to smooth out the rough edges and to help us as your audience understand when you're moving from point A to point B, literally in this case. A little bit further is another transition in point C. And then finally, a final transition and the conclusion. Now, I want to remind you, we just looked at a 5-page long speech. That's probably on the longer end for what you're going for, but it's a good example. And I share it with you because the details are so rich. I think it's going to be really helpful to you. Now, I mentioned before, this is a 12-page document. If we scroll on a little bit further, begin on page 8. Those are the references there, but beginning on page 8 is actually another example of a speech. This one is more persuasive. So again, these are 2 types of speeches that best fit what you as a class, the topics that you've come up with. And again, I encourage you to go through this document and really study how it's organized, how it's structured. My one hesitation about giving you this document, it's not perfect, but my one hesitation, is the fact that everything here is written in complete sentences. And I caution you against writing complete sentences because I think that makes it harder for you to perform your speech later on. All right, so just keep that in mind. When you do your outline, it doesn't have to be complete sentences. All right, what I'm going to do is give you another screen here to look at, and that's this one. Whoops, got to hit the share button. There we go. So this is a sample outline template for you. The other page was full out outlines, and this is just a template. So you can take this document. It's a Word document. You can take it, save it to your computer, and you can modify it. It has everything filled out for you. All right, it shows you where your body is, your first main point, your transition, your second main point, and so forth. So I think a lot of you are going to find that this particular document is really helpful when it comes time to start drafting your outlines. All right, so there you have it, 2 documents that are going to be really helpful as you're working on this speech. Again, you're going to find those both in Blackboard. Now, a couple tips that I want to just reiterate for you as you're working on your outlines. First of all, it's a rough draft. It's a rough draft. I do want you to put a lot of effort into it. What I find is the more effort people put into the rough draft, the better their speech is in the long run. But it is a rough draft. I don't want you to agonize about it either. I realize public speaking can be intimidating. And so a lot of times as individuals, we get caught up on the, oh my God, I've got to do a speech. And we focus more on that than actually doing the planning. So put effort into it, but don't kill yourself either. The second thing, as I mentioned before, do not write incomplete sentences. Here's what happens. When you give your speech, you will be using that outline, okay, just like I've got here, but you'll be using that outline to deliver your speech. You're not reading because, this happens over time. So when you use that outline, it's helpful to have short, concise bullet points. If you write your outline in complete sentences, it puts you at risk of reading your speech and you will lose points for that. So that's why I encourage you not to write in complete sentences, not to write in complete paragraphs. Okay. The other thing that I want to tell you is I am available to you. I've met with a couple people already regarding their thesis statements, regarding their ideas, and I'm also available to you in terms of outlines. If you get stuck, if you need help, I am here. You can send me a text message and we can meet and we can start brainstorming some structure to it and give you a good head start. All right, so let's talk about what's going to happen next. As you submit your outlines, and again, you want to be careful what that due date is. Check it in Blackboard to make sure what your final due date is for the outlines. But when you submit them, What happens is I read through every single outline and I leave you detailed notes and feedback. Sometimes I handwrite it, sometimes I use track changes. Really depends on what format you send it to me in. But I go through every single outline with a fine-tooth comb and I give you lots and lots and lots of feedback. I also at that point will take one of those rubrics and fill it out and send it back to you with comments and a projected grade on it. Okay, so that's what I'll be doing with your outlines. Then I'll send it back to you. You'll have all that feedback. You'll have that rubric. You have all my suggestions. You can take that information and turn it into your final outline and ultimately your final speech. I won't lie, it takes me a long time to do that. It takes me at least 15 minutes per speech to do that. But again, I find that in the long run, you have a better formatted and organized speech and you feel more confident about it too. Okay. So there you have it. That is step 2, the outline. I wish you luck with it. It's challenging, but I think what you're going to find is this is where you put all those great ideas and suggestions and all the cool things that you have planned for your speech into an organization and into place. All right, everyone, have a fabulous week. And I look forward to talking to you and hearing from you soon, and definitely for reading those outlines. Bye.